Do it with independent women's forums. Patrice, Leo, and we'll finally get to see her in the flesh. She's becoming remote. We've also got Democratic strategist Scott Levenson and Republican strategist Noel Nickpour. So, Patrice, I mean, that was a bit of a surprise. I would see it maybe in the top 5, but nowhere near. What did you make of it?
Well, unless you live inside of D.C. or Washington or New York City, most people really don't care about the Mueller report. Maybe they care about the big takeaway, which is that there was no collusion. But they care about the bread and butter issues.
We had fancy graphics packages
I
and
know.
music.
We've heard it for the past 2 years. But still, I think people care about, are they able to put the food on their table? Can they leave their job and find another one easily? Did they get a bigger tax refund? I think that's probably a bigger issue. And so I'm not surprised, when you see the results here. But they also care about immigration, and I think that's important for the president as he's thinking about his 2020 run. That's
supposedly now the #1 issue, Scott. And one of the things we've been seeing is a lot of prominent Democrats saying, all right, we can differ over what defines a crisis, but what's happening at the border is a big deal. What's happening here?
I actually think what the poll shows as you dig under the surface is how divided the nation is on issues like that. I agree with Patrice. What people care about is bread and butter issues. But if you look at the Democratic crosstabs on that poll, you'll see only 7% of Democrats care about immigration as their top issue. They care about health care. They care about the economy. So those numbers...
But that used to be at 1%.
Well, what I see is that on the Republican side, it's almost 75%. I also see that on border closing, it's only 40%. On happy with the direction of the nation, 40%. Those are bad numbers for the president, Neil.
All right. Now, nevertheless, what's nowhere there is this Mueller probe and report. So is it risky to pursue for whatever passions drive the left, certainly to get to the bottom of it, and even on the right to investigate how the investigation started in the first place?
Neil, you're absolutely right. This is a really slippery slope for the Democrats because this is an issue that a lot of people, good, bad, or ugly, have put behind them now. The Mueller report has been released, and now, they're dissecting it, but it's pretty much a free and clear to focus on this for
It is definitively not a free and clear. And
let me tell you something. Okay. If the Democrats seriously focus on this for 2020, it's a losing battle, because if you're seeing polls where immigration, this is what build the wall, that chant got him into
what's happened to this point is we've seen the whole framing of the Mueller report in the context of the findings of the report, which is appropriate. But what you see on the obstruction side is almost a Dostoevsky-like Raskolnikov approach to what the fear is.
It's early for that kind of
It is a little early for that. Yeah, right. But it's this fear of what could be found. No one knows more than Donald Trump.
Let's take your face value that you're right, and there's a lot more people want to get into here, and Washington, what have you. But if I'm reading this correctly, Patrice, I don't know if it changes any minds on the right or the left. I think they're stuck in their positions. They won't change their positions or views. There's something in that report for everybody to latch onto. But there's something in this poll for politicians to pay attention to.
There should be. I mean, when you look at other polling, like the Marist polling recently, there was no mandate around whether Congress should continue to investigate. I think it was like 45%, 45%, and those broke down along partisan lines.
And I 100% agree with you.
But I think that the challenge, though, is if Democrats do pursue investigation, and Republicans to some extent, and they're still not able to find anything, even after an independent investigation has found nothing, then you have not.
By the way, I would apply that to Republicans as well. If they pursue whatever passions they have to find out how this whole thing started, and they're legitimately concerned, just as Democrats are generally concerned, as Scott's point about the details in this report, but to keep pushing. It tells you are ignoring what are bigger concerns.
Well, Neil, that's a great point. And another thing is, I come in with the finance part of this. If you're going to be looking at raising money for 2020, how much money do you think you can really raise when your issue is 24 front and center, the Mueller report, and dissecting that versus immigration build the wall?
It's just a shame.
We're going to trounce
all
everybody
the decisions that we're talking about on whether to proceed with Mueller have to do with political decisions. The fact is the investigation laid it on the floor of the Congress to take the next step and look further. That's their obligation.
What do you read, Scott, into both Steny Hoyer and Nancy Pelosi, just essentially putting up warning flags? Just be careful here. Just be careful.
We should be careful. We should proceed soberly. We should look at the facts.
But they're not, right? Don't you worry that it gets a little too rabid?
Across our parties, certainly, there's a range of ways to deal with all the stimuli and all the information that we're getting hit with. And you'll see that range over the next several months. But that doesn't change the obligation of the members of Congress.
Let me ask you, as a prominent Democrat, Democrat. Let me
at
answer
what you applaud.
one of the things that it came through, and I was hearing a couple of pretty high-ranking Democrats who were talking about the fact this doesn't change my mind about the suspicions around Donald Trump's election. I thought, wow, I thought we put that one at least.
Well,
to bed.
Yeah.
it doesn't, because you can't deny the fact that he asked the Russian
Wait a minute.
government.
Let me ask you outright, and I've asked every prominent Democrat this. Do you think Donald Trump was a duly and genuinely and legitimately elected president of the United States?
Ooh, that's a tough question.
It's not really tough.
Yeah, it is a tough question.
Well, see,
because
that's what at the
do
core of
believe,
this, then people
no,
are
because
going to...
I do believe that the president asked a foreign government to be involved in the election, which in fact...
No, he did not ask a
become.
foreign government. I'm just saying to you, I'm just saying to you,
Well, yes, I
that
did.
still hangs
He
out
actually
there.
did. He asked the foreign government
Patrice, if
to
that
look
still
at
hangs
Hillary's
out there,
emails, for
then,
sure,
then this all goes back
publicly.
to what it was originally. We don't accept this guy being in the White House.
Well, that's true, and it's meant to undermine every effort that's been made on the economic front, on the regulatory front that's occurred. I think that the challenge, and I think Democrats should think very carefully about this.
Right.
If you're not able to put forward your own agenda and govern, leading at least in the House, then I think it's going to be very difficult for Democrats to run in 2020 on anything other than,
You're not going to do the Electoral College.
I'm sorry, you cannot deny the fact that when you have 3 million votes more than the president, that presidency comes into question.
Yeah, but the deal is...
Well, wait a minute. So you'll ignore the Electoral College?
No.
You felt
I
the
said
way
comes
if
into
it felt the
question.
same way if it were reversed?
You asked
No, that's my point. You ignore the Electoral College and it's built into our
No, I
system.
don't ignore. You asked.
He won. That's the way we decide
I say it
presidents.
raises questions.
Wow. All right. We have